So it's Wednesday, which is day 3, though it's the second full day of 3 full days, 4 nights. And I'm in Park Monceau, which you saw in the sunshine my last video. And me and Mark just gonna have a relaxed sort of wander around the city today, because it was sort of very deadline oriented yesterday, fitting the interview in with Mike and what have you. On Monday night when we got here, we went to some jazz gigs, and you'll see the videos of those on the channel. And you know, we had a lot of deadlines to hit to make sure those things happened. So today is a bit more free and easy. Getting into jazz, I bought this, Coltrane Plays the Blues, on CD, which I used to have on vinyl, and my vinyl copy used to have a skip on it, and this was like $10.99, and I haven't been playing any jazz for a while, and I thought, well, that's great. €13 it was, and I've never owned it on CD, and it's got this really nice modernist cover, as you see. And then in the sort of sale there, at Fnac, I basically looked at the jazz records. Most of the rock records are the same as you get anywhere else. There was a load of Japanese imports, and this is a double CD, Miles Davis, live at the Plug Nickel, which I've read reviews of, but never, I don't think I've ever actually seen it. And my big jazz phase was in the late 90s, but I do like Miles Davis a lot still. And it's because it's Japanese, it's got an OB. And it's also a blue spec CD. I'll just stick that right in the camera. Okay, blue spec is one of the CD variants. It's really high res, and they've got very clean and very punchy sound. And I've got a few of them. This is a double, so this was €44.20, but it was reduced to 33, which is quite a lot. But at the moment, a euro is about 80 pence, so it's quite a good deal. And I thought, well, this will get me back into listening to my jazz records. So I've got something new to play, because I really enjoyed the jazz gigs the other night, and I actually have room on my jazz racking, nice, which is in the hideout. It's about the only area where I keep any format of music, where I've actually got some space left in the racking, so I can probably just about accommodate 2 CDs in there, but there you go. This is the Museum of Modern Art, which is just across the Seine from the Eiffel Tower, and apparently admission is free, and I'm planning to go in here to consider it, but now we've walked past as a consequence of our sort of planned itinerary today. I didn't realise it was this park. We might actually go in. But what a fantastic piazza we've got here, isn't this great? We've got this Mark there taking a pic. We've got the tower in the background. Yeah, so I think we can't really pass this up. So why have I got the shades on when there's not really any sun up? Well, the fact is the eye bags are horrendous. I used to say that in the early days of the channel, didn't I? Because you know, we've been rather burning the midnight oil, which has been great, but it's been a bit intense as well. We're a much slower day today, but yeah, I think we're going to have to do this. This is fantastic. I can work out where the entrance is. Oh.
In 1970, the band was highly influential in the rock world, adding avant-garde elements of fashion and art to their performances, and paving the way for bands like U2, the Talking Heads, and Duran Duran. So it's only really the centre of the Champs-Élysées which is still shut after the Paralympics, because we're here the week after, and these are the gardens to the north of the lower end of the Champs-Élysées. Very nice. Artist and humanist. This must be the great man. It's also similar to George from Gilbert and George, isn't it? Who's an artist and a humanist, I would say. the amazing, what I can only describe as a steam effect there by that water feature, where the water vapor seems to come out of the trellis behind the water feature. See, I'm losing my eloquence when it comes to gardening terms, you know, which would not please the video, would it? But there you go. Fountain, which makes me think of Marcel Duchamp, of course. The outdoor bookseller gets rather peeved when things like this are upset just because of sport and, you know, the opium of the people. But I had a feeling this would be the case at the Place de Concorde. But, you know, it could be worse. The view down the Champs-Élysées is still fantastic. Do we have? What beer do we have? London Black. Oh, okay. It's like a Guinness, isn't it? The photo purple. Yeah. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's quite nice. You really struggle to find something like this in the UK any fucking where. The beautiful people of Paris. What's that? What's that? Excellent. But it's also they're nice additions, aren't they? You know, they're nice books,
the thing is that authority, as you know as well as I do, is important in a publisher.
Yeah, very much
whether
so.
It's a newspaper, a magazine, or a book.
Yeah, very much so.
And that authority shows through. If the publisher is behind the book, it will show.
And I mean, that's the least you should expect.
Yes,
so often, as we know from your experience as a writer and my experience as a bookseller, is so often not the case. This is the thing, and it's a bizarre thing because you always wonder then, why did they bother? Why did they bother?
There's so many of them like that. I mean, Steve Ehrlich was taken to lunch by to think he was going to become the next best thing in the universe.
Yeah.
And then they published the books without a peep, really. And that
they sort of.
And Steve didn't understand that when he was young. Because he thought, well, this is great, you know, they're going to get behind me, get behind the books.
It happens so many times, doesn't it? I mean, it's weird. It's even happened to me with my very modest non-fiction career. When I wrote 100 must-read science fiction novels for A&C Black. And, you know, to be fair, they were great, and they were all over me, and they were good, and I put the final programme in that one, by the way. And they were great, you know, they said, what are you going to do next and what have you. And the book did well, and then the next one did well. The third one, I ended up with a new publicist who was no good.
Absolutely.
And it died without trace. And that was called 100 Must-Read Fantasy Novels. And funnily enough, I put Ulrich and Melnibone and City of the Autumn Stars, which is one of my favourite books by you. Which makes me digress, because I remember the second time we met, and you came to Bath, and City had just come out, and you did a reading from it. The part where, is it the fox? The fox
the fox who reads the encyclopedia.
Yeah, and he's talking about Diderot. Yeah,
Yes,
the encyclopedia. Yeah. And I thought, and I loved that book, and I loved the all the alchemical wedding in it.
Well,
I
it was twice the
instantly,
length, you know,
it's
originally.
huge, wasn't it? Was it really? Oh, okay.
The only copy that existed, as far as I know, was with a guy in Devon, who I think is dead now. I don't want to say this, but I know he had some tragedies. It's a guy called and he actually wrote some books. John Davy published them. They were about his life on a farm when he was young. He still lived on the same farm, a family farm.
Yeah.
But he'd done an interview with me while I watched Forbidden Planet being ripped off for about £1,500. Actually watched while the guy took the money and just thought he was an employee. But that was another story. I felt so stupid about that. But anyway, we did this, we did it for Forbidden Planet.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was that. I gave him a copy of the manuscript, and he could only get he couldn't get all of it copied when I asked him for a copy, because I didn't have a copy.
Yeah.
And so I've only got half a copy.
But it's a big book, but I remember that was one of my favourites at that time. And what I like that thing, and this is what I get. I've been asked this, 40 years now in my career, because when I started working in the book trade, I was foaming at the mouth about your stuff, and I was getting it under my belt. And it was at that time where that sort of Tolkien-esque type fantasy boom had been going for a few years. So I've been asked all the time, when's the new David Edwards come out, whatever, and I'd say, try some Moorcock, push the envelope, And people would say, where do I start? And I'd say, don't worry about where you start, because you will reread this stuff and you will get the frisson of recognition as symbolic things come up again, characters seem to recur. And the thing that really got me in that one was the alchemical wedding sequence, which was rather like, to me, like the end of the Alchemist's Question from the Opium General, which naturally had its resonances back to the final programme and to the opening familial relationships in Elric and Melnibone, and this is the thing. So I'm starting a series of videos about your work, because I'm trying to get people away from, I've got this one that's in progress, I'm trying to get people away from this idea that they have to think in too linear a fashion, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because,